What's up guys, welcome back to FG Tech Tips. Today I'm gonna going over a CPU Waterblock review. As you saw from my intro, we're gonna look at a new AM4 Bykski CPU Waterblock that I will be testing with my Ryzen 9 CPU. If you've been following this channel, you know we have already reviewed the Bykski CPU Waterblock in the past. So today we'll be also doing a comparison between these two waterblocks. The model number is CPU AM M, and you can get this on Aliexpress or specialized watercooling shops for about $100. So we are talking about a price which is double than the other Bykski waterblock I already reviewed, which is the XPR AM V2, which can be anyway found for just $45. What catch my attention of this new waterblock is a nice built-in real-time temperature display, and later on we will see how it works. Just like my previous Bykski waterblock review, we are talking about an ARGB capable product. That's also why we have a nice plexiglass window at the center of the waterblock. As usual, I'll start with a quick unboxing, then we'll take a closer look at the waterblock and its dimensions and also the specs. Then I will guide you through a proper installation of it, and we will finally test the temperatures. As usual in my videos, you can find the video chapters in the progress bar below and in the video description as well. So without further ado, follow me. And here's the box I received directly from Bykski. As you can read here, we have a branded tape on the box, so let's see what we got. They sent me both the CPU waterblock we're gonna review today and also this digital flow meter we're gonna look at in a different video. As we can read from the box, this waterblock is compatible with all ARGB technologies from the various motherboard brands such as the Asus Aura, MSI Mystic Light Sync, ASRock, RGB and Bykski proprietary system. At the back of the box we have the QR codes for accessing the products page. We can also observe the model number here in the corner. This is the AMD version and with the ARGB support. We see there is also an RGB model for older motherboards. Continuing with our unboxing, we find an operating manual, the product QA certification, the M3.5 screws we need for mounting it. Obviously these are for the AM and AM4 platforms, and here we have our backplate that will be placed at the back of our motherboard as usual. We also get this ARGB adapter that will basically convert the proprietary ARGB port from Bykski into the universal one we all have in our motherboards. And finally here our CPU waterblock. First impression is of great build quality, with this cool shape and its weight, which is consistent. From the top we can see through the plexiglass window and we see the micro fins. The channel is about 0.5 mm. As for measurements, we have a dimension of about 12 by 9 cm and a thickness of about 2.5 cm. The waterblock features an electroplated copper base plate that is covered by a precision machine PMMA top with an aluminum cover. It fits a variety of current AMD processors including Threadripper, but it's obviously not compatible with aluminum-based loops. The waterblock features a real-time temperature display. This display is integrated directly on top of the block, making it easy for us to read the temperature. It also has a nice graphics, but unfortunately this is not customizable. The fittings are the usual G1/4 thread. We see we have a plexiglass window at the center of the waterblock, but we see it's all made of plexiglass also below the aluminum cover, so that we have a great diffusion light for our ARGB effects. Now let's start with installation. First of all, I will have to drain the loop. After opening the valve, I will let the air in from the top so that all the coolant will get out from the loop very easily. Now time to remove the old waterblock. I'll then remove the thermal paste with some isopropyl alcohol. And I was curious to compare the two Bykski water blocks I have. As you can see, the one we are reviewing in this video is even bigger than the previous one, but it's also 90 grams heavier when we compare the two weights. Once the CPU has also been cleaned of the previous thermal compound, we can install the backplate provided. As we see, is exactly the same backplate that was provided with the other Bykski water block. Then we open the small plastic bag containing the 4 screws and springs. Comparing these 4 with the ones of the previous water block, we see the new ones are a bit longer than the ones used with the previous water block. As usual, we have 4 plastic washers that will have to be placed between the springs and the water block, as also shown in the manual. As usual, it will be very important now to spread a good quality thermal paste on our CPU. I suggest something like this Thermagic you see here, which has a thermal conductivity of 12 watts per meter Kelvin, or the Thermal Grizzly Hydronaut I have right here, but also a cheaper thermal paste like this Noctua NT-H1 will be also good. There are different techniques as usual for placing the thermal compound on our CPU. I usually go for the dot at the center, or maybe an X like in this example. Obviously it will be very important not to put too much compound, or it will be just counterproductive. Then the pressure of the water block will take care to spread the thermal paste evenly on the CPU. After removing the protective layer at the base of our water block, we can take the screws and apply them. First of all, we start with the provided springs and then with the washers. Now we simply apply the screws, taking care to fix them at the opposite sides first. So I have started, as you see, from the top left and bottom right without securing them too tight. Then I will be applying these two at the 2 remaining corners. Then we simply tighten the screws one by one, proceeding diagonally, just like I'm showing. We can start closing our loop, but first we need to connect the ARGB connector if you intend to use the provided LEDs. So we connect the proprietary connector with the provided adapter so that we have the usual 3-pin 5V ARGB connector supported by all motherboards. If you don't have a free ARGB connector on your motherboard, you can use an ARGB splitter just like this one I'm showing here. Then also remember to connect the Molex. When connecting the tubes, as you can see from this related video on the top right corner, it doesn't really make much difference in terms of inlet or outlet ports. Anyway, the inlet port should be the one below that goes directly to the center of the water block channels. After closing the drain valve, I'll start filling the loop with the filling bottle. I'm currently using the EK Cryofuel Misty Fog. You can check my review here in the upper right corner if you like. So when the pump will start working, I'll continue filling in the loop, paying obviously attention to not let the pump to run dry. I'll then leave the PC running for a few hours in order to check for any leaks, and also let the coolant to settle in the loop so that we get rid of any remaining air bubbles. And now let's check the final result. So as you saw, the water block looks really cool, and you will obviously control all the lights simply via the motherboard software. Anyway, be aware that the temperature reported on the water block is referred to the coolant temperature. In fact, here we can see hardware info showing 81.4 degrees Celsius on the CPU under full load, while the Bykski display shows just 39 degrees Celsius. Now we can go through some tests and comparisons between the two water blocks. I let the loop running for about 24 hours before running any test, since there were still some micro bubbles in the Waterblock channels. You can see all the specs of the testing machine here, but regarding the CPU we have an AMD Ryzen 9 3900X with extreme PBO overclocking, so it runs really hot. For the first test we have Cinebench R23 multi-core test. I ran it twice using the 10 minutes throttle test, and after that I let the CPU cool and rest for 5 minutes. While we see no tangible differences in the scores, when looking at the temperatures we notice we gain 5 degrees Celsius with the CPU Ray on M in the maximum temperature. So it does about 6.4% better than the other Bykski Waterblock we reviewed. Moving on, we have the Cinebench R20 results. In this case we gain few points in the score, and regarding the highest temperature recorded, we recorded about 7 degrees less with the CPU Ray on M Waterblock, so it does 8% better in the maximum temperature. As we see from the last graph, we also see a consistent improvement in gaming temperatures after a 2 hours gaming session with multiple 4K titles. Here you can also see how much the CPU cores were boosting during all these tests. So after all, the CPU Ray on M is bigger and heavier than the XPR AM V2. So as expected, in terms of thermal performances, we get better thermals in different test scenarios when comparing the two Waterblocks using the same systems, same settings and also the same thermal paste. The looks of the CPU Ray on M are surely winning here. The black aluminum cover and its shape looks really great, and the built-in display is also a plus for me. It's just a pity that it cannot be managed via software, so it's not customizable at all. I think it is also more durable and less fragile when compared with the XPR AM V2, which is all made of plexiglass. You just have to ask yourself if it's worth to spend twice the money for the CPU Ray on M over the XPR AM V2, which anyway still perform really good. So let me know in the comments below if you own one of these Waterblocks and what are your impressions so far. And also leave a like and comment if you like this video. Consider also to subscribe to the channel by clicking here, and also have a look to my other related videos clicking this playlist right here. But that's really everything I have for you today, folks. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.